Listening Dog Media.
World Premiere Plays, exclusive to the Pod Play.
Matt and Jimmy, Fallen Angels, a stage play by John Ludden. The date, 14th of January 1969. Against the backdrop of Old Trafford. Jimmy is sat smoking a roll-up whilst gazing out over the ground when Matt approaches up the steps.
Jimmy.
Jimmy looks across to Matt, then back over the pitch, obviously not impressed.
Jimmy, I was going to tell you. It's been crazy with the press boys. I just couldn't find time earlier. I'm sorry.
Still, Jimmy stares, totally ignoring Matt.
Jimmy, please talk to me.
Finally, Jimmy looks over towards Matt.
Congratulations, Matt. I hope you have a wonderful retirement. I really do. There, do you feel better now?
Jimmy,
If you could have been bothered to tell me you were going, then me and Winnie would have brought you something nice, you know? Some Cuban cigars, maybe, or a nice scarf, or a red hat.
Come on, old friend. I think we need to talk. It's been far too long and too much has remained unsaid. It's time to clear the air. I'm tired. I need to put things right with you. You're like a ghost around here.
Matt sits down.
A ghost? Matt, you've looked through me for 10 years and now you want me to bare my soul, is that it?
I just want to make things right between us.
What? Am I on your list of things to do before you walk off into the sunset with the crowd singing, "There's only one Matt Busby"? Hey? Do me a favour, Matt. I think it's best you just go.
I can't, Jimmy. I just can't. I need to try and explain why I acted like I did.
No. You've left it far too late, Matt. But I genuinely wish yourself and Jean a long and happy retirement. I really do, Matt.
Do you hate me, do you? I mean, I couldn't blame you if you did.
Of course I don't hate you. I don't understand you, but I don't bloody hate you. How could I after everything we've been through, man? What a bloody stupid question.
Give me this one chance to explain myself, please, Jim.
Give me one reason why I should listen to a word you have to say when after 10 years, you've done your damn best to act like I didn't bloody exist.
Fallen angels?
No. That is not fair, Matt. Not fair at all.
Please, old pal. I need to do this.
What? After all this time, you finally want to open your heart?
This isn't a confession. I just want to talk.
You want to tell me how everything changed after the crash, do you? Eh? How you ever so surely over the years have pushed me aside, and whilst at it you broke my bloody heart.
There was a reason. Selfish, aye, maybe, but it was how it had to be, and how I had to be. When I left the hospital at Munich, my surgeon, Dr. Maurer, told me the pain in my body would in time ease. But I had to find a way to seek help for what was in my head. But I never did see. I felt the best way to face it was if I never mentioned it to anyone. It would all go away. It never has. It never will. And yet you stepped up after the crash and saved the day. I don't think I could have done what you did. The loss and the grief would have broken me. You were stronger, Jimmy. Far stronger.
I'm not stronger. What are you on about? It did break me, Matt. It broke my bloody heart. But I had no choice. Everyone around me was crying, numb with grief. I just had to grit my bloody teeth and make sure no one saw me cry, but I cried. Christ almighty, I cried. I bloody well cried.
Aye. So many have told me what a grand job you did whilst I was lying in that Munich bed. Murphy's marvels, keeping the red flag flying.
No, I kept no flag flying, Matt. I just gritted my teeth and snapped at any bastard who dared get in my way.
Aye, that's you. Ah, Jimmy.
What is it with you, Matt? If I'm not mistaken, you sound jealous.
Oh, away with you, Jimmy. That's rubbish.
I never took you for a jealous man, Matt. Hard and stubborn at times, yes, but jealous. I always thought you were bigger than that.
Jealous me? What would I have to be jealous about?
Oh, you really don't know. Oh, come on. You can fool yourself, man. But don't try and think you could ever fool me.
I'm lost. Explain yourself, Jimmy.
You wouldn't want to hear it from my lips, believe me, man.
Oh, you're wrong. I really do. I need to know.
Okay, then. Right. If you insist, I'll tell you. I'll tell you that at that time, you believe people were saying I kept United going whilst you were lying in that Munich hospital.
Well, you did.
And that without me, the board, your good friends, would have closed the doors and called time in our club, and I can assure you, Matt, they were very bloody close, very damn close. But I talked them round, see? I told them that over my dead body would I allow that to happen. Over my dead body, I said.
What's your point?
My point is that without me fighting, scrapping, pleading, and bastard well begging, there would have been no Manchester United as we know it now. No Manchester United. For a while, it was Jimmy and Matt, not Matt and Jimmy anymore. Now then, this with your ego. Oh no. You could never handle that, Matt. Losing the power of being Mr. Manchester United, it would have been far too much for you. And so you turned on me like a...
You don't honestly believe that, Jimmy. Please tell me you don't.
You tell me that I'm wrong.
That I could be such a jealous and vain man to see you denied any credit. Yes, you're wrong. That's not true at all. I'm better than that. At least, well, I thought I was.
Well then, tell me the truth what it was then. Eh? What happened back then? Why did you cut me out, Matt? Why did you break my sodden heart?
Jimmy, please. Please tell me you don't believe that. Please.
No. Of course I don't believe it. How could I? But something changed, Matt. You changed, and for the worse. The man who went to Belgrade was not the same one who returned. You pushed me away and just never stopped sodding pushing. I became invisible to you. You treated me like a bloody leper. And I could never understand why. Damn it, I still don't.
Do you know why? Can I tell you? The answer is quite simple, and it's not what I'm proud of.
I will. Bloody took you long enough, man. Only 10 sodden years. Go on then. Speak.
It was because I lost our boys, Jimmy. We lost our boys. They got on a plane and they never came home, and that's what changed. All our hopes and dreams died at the end of that damn runway.
For God's sake, Matt.
And even after finally winning the European Cup last May, did the pain ease? Maybe for a night, but it returned. I saw it in the eyes of Duncan's mum, who I met after the game. I looked at her, and I could see big Dunk, Jimmy. I could see him. And she said to me how much he loved me, how much he loved playing football, how much he loved Manchester United.
A cheerful Matt lights his pipe.
Duncan. You know, there's not a day goes by when I don't think of him. His last words to me in training before you all flew to Belgrade. We got all the lads together, see. I promised them that if they got a good result, well, I would go easy on them in training when they got home. Duncan's voice boomed out, a huge grin in his voice. We won't let you down, Jimmy. Why are we doing this to ourselves, Matt? It's too much pain.
We're no strangers to pain, Jimmy. We have that in common in bucket loads.
Well, we weren't strangers at all once. This strangeness between us is all you're doing. So many wasted years when we could have helped each other. Am I wrong? You know, my family could never understand why you went like you did. When he said it was my imagination, but I knew. Oh, I knew. I saw it in your bloody eyes. You couldn't face me when I'd done nothing wrong.
I was a broken man when I came home. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't understand why I was alive and all our boys had died. And I should have reached out to you, Jimmy. I know that now. But at the time, I was in a dark place. I couldn't see or think straight. I couldn't sleep. I just walked around in a daze.
Yet you were happy to let others close to you. But not me. Never me. You had your pals, Paddy McGrath, Johnny Foy. So why? Why crucify me? What the bloody hell had I done to deserve such treatment? Tell me, Matt.
Because you knew what I was going through.
And what was that?
Come on, Jimmy, don't play games. I was grieving.
Grieving. Grieving. Let me tell you something. Oh, Mr. Sir Matt Busby. Mr. Father of our bloody football team, do you think you have the moral high ground on grief?
What kind of a question is that?
A fair one. Those days after the crash, I cried till I had no tears left, see? But I could never and would never do it in public because I was always drying somebody else's bloody eyes. I couldn't let anyone see me break because I was all they had. And it wasn't bloody fair, Matt. It wasn't bastard fair what happened. Why us? Why me? You know, I'd whispered under my breath as I watched young boys and girls, just kids sobbing on the forecourt. Grown men stood there with glazed eyes. God, they could cry. But not me. Not me. So please, Matt, don't you try and tell me about pain. And then what happens? You come home, and then you treat me like I've done something terrible to you. Me, Matt.
It makes you feel better. I did the same to the Almighty as well. I lost faith. So you're in good company, Jim.
Aye. Well, me and him had words as well afterwards. More than a few. The fact that he left you live meant we were back on speaking terms. At least for a while, anyway.
It's a bitterly cold December day, and both men are wearing overcoats. Matt fastens his and puts his collar up. Jimmy's is open.
Fasten your coat, Jimmy. You'll catch your death of cold.
You've retired, remember? You can't tell me what to do anymore.
No, but I can tell Winnie when you're coughing and spluttering at home that your zip wasn't up.
Jimmy fastens his coat.
You fight dirty, Matt.
Well, I learned along the way.
When we played, you were the artist, Matt. The ball player. And me? Well, I wasn't called Tapper Murphy for nothing.
You'd have kicked your own mother, you, if God forbid she tried to take the ball off you.
She would never have dared, though.
Do you remember when we were in Barry? 43.
How can I forget, eh? God, we were so young then. It was a world of killing and death. Dark times, but somehow it was all so normal, somehow. The Nazi bastards just had to be beaten.
Aye. Southern Italy. A beautiful country drenched in much blood. I watched you refereeing those soldiers like it was the FA Cup final. They saw it as a kickabout, but not you, Jimmy. I knew from that very moment if I was ever going to manage a football club after the war, I wanted you alongside me. I remember when we spoke, you had a football under your arm. You said to me, "You see this, Matt? Amongst all this violence, this has kept me sane."
Me and you were the lucky ones back then, weren't we? Spared the worst. Because we'd been professional footballers, we were never really in the thick of it, were we?
Aye. We saw terrible things, though, Jimmy. Man's inhumanity to his fellow man. What he's capable of when pushed.
Oh, awful. Awful. In North Africa, I remember I saw men fall to their knees and break down and cry just on seeing the ocean returning from the front. Do you know what? Some even started to swim and just carried on over the waves, never coming back. Can you believe that, Matt? They never turned back.
The war at that time was far from over. But you told me that one day it would be, and pointed again to that ball and said, "This will matter once more." Just a bag of wind in the great scheme of things, but there will come a day when the whistle will finally blow on this madness, and life can begin again.
Aye.
I remember you saying that.
I remember when I got your letter asking if I would join you here in Manchester. This bloody, damp, cold, smog-filled place, and a club with neither a ground or a penny to their name. But it was our dream to conquer. God, it was a beautiful thing, Matt. And this city, reduced to rubble by Hitler's bombs, but it had something. It had guts, Matt. It had heart. And it had soul. Those people, like us, just wanted to live again and enjoy their football, and were bloody determined to make that happen.
And we did. Me and you together, Matt and Jimmy.
Aye.
I could never dream of my worst nightmares that I'd lived to witness such carnage as what had gone before, but I did. If we hadn't suffered enough, me, you, Manchester, and yet your friend upstairs decided to bring Munich down upon our heads.
You know, maybe this is wrong to admit it, but for a time after the crash, I can't believe I'm saying this to you now, Matt, but there was a time after the crash that a part of me wished I had been on that plane. It's true. To be with the boys when it happened. The chance, I don't know, I could have helped, maybe save lives.
You would have been sat next to me, Jimmy, where Bert Wally was. You could never have helped anyone from beyond the grave, old son. No, the angels spared you for another task.
It wasn't the bloody angels. It was you, Matt Busby. You said I had to go and manage Wales in Cardiff. It was my duty to do so, and in saying that, you saved my bloody life.
No, it was a decision taken by angels, Jimmy, out of my hands. A decision taken by angels. They spared you for a reason.
Aye. Small mercies. So, they were to blame.
Jimmy smoking his roll-ups, Matt his pipe.
So, explain to me. What happened when you came back then? I mean, let's be absolutely honest here. We were never like brothers. We were never like brothers. Good pals, yes. But all that ended, didn't it, Matt? It was like a shutter coming down between us, or a light being switched off. You just cut me out. Why, man? I need to understand. What on earth caused you to do such a cruel thing?
Words can't express how sorry I am for what I did and how I acted towards you, Jimmy. But you have to try and understand that I was nursing a broken heart myself. I still am. It's still broken. Always will be. Every day I went to the ground, I saw ghosts. I heard their voices. Down every corridor at Old Trafford. When it went quiet, I heard Eddie Coleman's laugh, Duncan's broad, black country accent. I thought I was going mad. I honestly thought I was going crazy. And as for you, well, I knew you were suffering just as much inside, but it was just too much pain. It was killing me. I couldn't bear to reach out to you because that would have simply finished me off. A trouble shared, they say. My God, not this one. I needed to keep my feelings inside, and just seeing you every day, knowing, like me, you were slowly dying too. I do regret what I did, I really do, but I simply wasn't strong enough to reach out.
You could have tried, Matt.
I'm so sorry, Jimmy.
It was the bloody oranges for me, you know. God, I can still smell them now.
Oranges?
Aye. After the game, see, against the Israelis, they presented me with a box of oranges that I carried home, all the way back to bloody Manchester. But that's another story. Damn things. Then, from London Road railway station, I jumped into a taxi that took me to Old Trafford, still carrying these bloody oranges. I had no idea what had happened. Not a clue. I do remember it was mid-afternoon. And there were dark, angry skies, and it was freezing cold and raining heavily. I remember the rain splattering on the taxi window as I looked out. I also remember a man with a bowler hat who recognized me as we drove past. He was crying. It was so very strange. You know what stays on your mind after all these years? So strange. On arriving, I remember I gave the taxi driver an orange. He hadn't shut up all the way. I thought he was a good lad, you know. So I just gave him an orange. And then I got out. And I went inside. Well, I was whistling. I was in a bloody good mood. Christ, we just made the European Cup semi-finals. And I was on top of the sodding world. I was. So proud of you and the boys. And then I saw Elma. She was crying. I mean, she had tears rolling down her cheeks. She told me there'd been a crash. I couldn't believe it. She didn't know who was alive or who was dead. And that night, Matt, that night was like stepping into the pits of hell. There can never have been one so dark and so very long.
I can only imagine, Jimmy.
I don't think you can, old son. And I wouldn't want you to. Something clicked in me, and I knew I had to get down to business. It felt like there was only me and Alma left. The phone was ringing off the hook. I felt like I was back in the bloody war. I got a call from the Express who confirmed the dead, you know. It was just so surreal. I went through Alma's list of family phone numbers, you know, ticking off as I rang. My heart breaking each time I dialed the numbers. Roger Byrne, I spoke to his wife, Joy. She sounded in shock and spoke almost in sniffling, joking terms. I could hear her heart breaking over the phone. What, Jimmy? I've only known him 3 Februaries, she said. The first, he crashed our car into a lamppost, he said. The second, I remember, into Matt Busby's neighbour's gardens. And now, Jimmy, the 3rd February, he's gone. He's gone and got himself killed in a damn plane crash. She let slip that they were expecting a baby and that Roger didn't know. She was going to tell him on his return.
Christ, Jimmy.
Tommy Taylor. Big Tommy. I cried on the phone with both his mother and his father, Violet and Charlie, you remember? He loved you, Jimmy, said Violet. and he loved Manchester United. David Pegg's mother, Jessie, aye, God bless her, she sobbed through tears, and I sobbed with her. Liam Billy Whelan. Eh? Billy, you know, he wanted to be a priest. But only for the love of the ball, saw him pull on a red shirt and not a sodding cassock. I had no number for Billy, but I knew the name of the Dublin Road. Is it a tractor, was it? So I found out through the operator a neighbour's phone number. I rang them and asked if they could possibly go and put Liam's mother on the phone. She already suspected Matt. I knew Jimmy, she said. I could feel my Liam's spirit soar. He's with the angels now. God, Matt, I will never forget those words. With the angels.
God bless young Liam. I was always so worried that when he first came over that we would steal his real name, and in the end we did. He became Billy.
Mark Jones's pregnant wife, June, screaming down the line. Jeff Bent's wife, Marion. Aye, she wept so there was no tears left to fall. What do we do now, Jimmy? She cried. I already have one 5-month-old baby child, Karen, and another on the way. Eddie Coleman's dad, Dickie. He said little, but I could hear his heart breaking in Salford across the river. He left the house in just his pyjamas and slippers. And they found him hours later, sat on a bench in Piccadilly. Crying his eyes out, he was. Eddie was their life, wasn't he? Their every breathing second. His grandfather, Dickie, Senior, whom all the players absolutely adored. You know, young Bobby and Wilf were never far away from there. They'd all gather in Eddie's living room, and the old man would enthrall them with tall and terrible and wonderful tales of his past escapades. There'd be sing-songs and joy and laughter in Archie Street. But that ended, Matt. On Thursday, the 6th of February, 1958.
Eddie. He had a smile that could light up a city, and that hip swerve that could send a whole grandstand the wrong way. Cheeky chappy. Lovely boy.
My boys. My golden apples wiped out, gone. And I hadn't even thought about Duncan. I never had time. He'd been confirmed as critical, but where there was a life, a grain of hope remained. But in Big Dunk's case, he was bigger than life itself. I remember thinking, let anyone try to take him before he had conquered the world. But in the end, even he died. When we heard that, we couldn't breathe. He was a colossus, such a brave lad, the best. Do you know, I don't know how, but from somewhere, God gave me the strength to make it through that darkest of nights. He was probably nursing a bloody guilty conscience, mind you. I have never in all my life known pain and deep sadness like it, Matt. Never.
At first, I was spared the mental pain because, well, they'd given me the last rites twice, hadn't they? I wasn't supposed to make it. I mean, you mentioned about wanting to be on the plane. Well, I was. And I'm so glad that you weren't. And witnessed what I did. The horror, the screams, the crying of our lads in the German snow tormented me to the point that when I was in the hospital bed, I didn't care whether I lived or died. But I truly believed I killed those boys, and I still do.
You can't seriously blame yourself for what happened, Matt. It just isn't true.
You blame me, Jimmy. Do you blame me for what happened?
You're not God, Matt. You never caused that bloody plane to fall from the skies.
You haven't answered the question.
I think I have. You're talking nonsense, man.
Oh, so the reason we lost our boys was because of the act of an evil god, and it was nothing to do with me pushing to get us home so we didn't forfeit the match against Wolves the following Saturday.
You cannot torture yourself like this, Matt. You're being far too hard on yourself.
Am I, Jimmy? Am I really? Oh, I know what people said then and still do. Well, never to my face. Families, the players, the supporters. Why did Busby let them get back on that plane for a third time? Why did he risk the lives of our boys? And why, most importantly, was he allowed to live when they died?
Nobody ever said anything like that in earshot of me. And I wouldn't have stood for it if they had. By God, I would have swatted them out.
Much appreciated, old pal.
I remember going over to Munich the day after the crash. And first seeing you. You were unconscious in the oxygen tent. Like your Sandy at first, I didn't recognize you, Matt. I thought, who is this stranger in front of me? I sat down beside your bed and I remember placing my hand over yours. Christ, you looked 48 going on 90. All right, Matt, I said. I told you it wasn't time to go because we still had so much work to do. I'd reminded you once, told me that together we would take United not just into the heavens, but beyond the bloody stars. That it just wasn't time to say goodbye because we still had to knock out that bloody Real Madrid team off their damn pedestal. Well, I couldn't do it on my own, I said to you. I needed you by my side. Matt and Jimmy together. Our Red Devils. It was my job to stoke the fires and light the flame in their bellies, and you'd supply the gold dust, the magic. A bunch of bouncing Busby boys. And then suddenly, I felt a movement in your hand. And your eyes flickered open. And you immediately recognized me. You had a tortured smile on your face. You were racked with pain. You tried to speak, but couldn't hear anything. It was more like a strained whisper, really. But I did lean in close, and I could just about make out your words. Keep the flag flying till I get back, Jimmy, he said. Keep the flag flying. And then your eyes closed again. You drifted back into unconsciousness. But I had my orders, see? And something told me that you, Matt Busby, were going nowhere fast. And it was down to me to hold the fort until you returned.
Dreams, Jimmy. They still come back to haunt. At times when I wake and I swear the sheets are wet with melting snow from that runway. I'm back there with the smell of burning petrol filling my nose and the dreadful sound of screams in my ears. Open my eyes and I shut them and I see there's no escape. It's like being in a prison of my nightmares.
All these years you've waited to tell me this? All these years, Matt? You should have told me then. I could have helped. You could have helped me. Together we could have got better. I've had dreams as well, man. Plenty of them. And back in the gym. But I'm talking to the boys' coffins. I'm telling them, no. I'm begging them to wake up. Praying it was all just a horrible nightmare. And that when I wake, they would all still be here. Fooling and clowning around, taking the mickey out of each other like they did. But they never wake, Matt. They never wake, and the night is so dark and sad, and each morning as my eyes open, my heart breaks with it. I have that dream every night.
Jimmy has a tear in his eye, and Matt passes him a handkerchief.
Here you go, old son. There's something in your eye.
Both Jimmy and Matt smile.
Aye, thanks, Matt. So, is it really all over then? You're handing over the reins to Wilf. No, he's a good lad and bleeds red for this club, he does, but I can't imagine this place without you. You are united through and through. You, Matt Busby, are like a church without a bloody priest.
No, I'm not retiring as such, Jimmy. I'm becoming general manager. Wolf will handle team affairs. I'll be looking after everything else. Let him concentrate solely on team matters. He's going to have enough to deal with.
Well, maybe I can help him, Give him a shoulder to lean on. And or lend him an ear when he needs it. Wilf is full of enthusiasm, but tends sometimes to react if pushed. Matt, he's going from good old Wilf to the boss. That's a big jump, especially with some of the characters knocking around here. He'll need a steadying hand. I could give him that, soothe the passage.
Thanks, but it won't be necessary, Jimmy.
Why? Why not, Matt? Surely you know he's going to need help. If he's on his own out there, there are players here who will spit him out.
Well, he won't need you because that's exactly what I'll be doing. Anyone stepping out of line, specifically George, and Wolf tells me I deal with it.
Hold on, Matt. You're not stepping away at all, are you? I should have known. You are incapable of living without this club. Wilf will be nothing more than your puppet. You will still be pulling the bloody strings.
Not at all, Jimmy. Wolf will be his own man.
Of course he will. Maybe I should ask him myself, if he wants me around.
You're out, Jimmy. I'm sorry. I really am.
No, you're not. You don't want me around because I know you too well, Matt. Oh, I know what's going on here. You think you've pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, Wilf included, but you haven't mine, pal.
Are you questioning my integrity,
No,
Jimmy?
Oh, I would never do that. Just your sudden reasoning.
What? In choosing Wolf? Wolf is loyal.
Aye, he is that. Wilf will do just what he's told. If you want loyalty, Matt, get yourself a bloody dog, not a football manager.
You don't understand, Jimmy. United is more than a football club now. We're an institution that is worldwide. Wilf needs to be protected from that. He's going to need the guiding hand that I'll provide, not you.
And you swear to me now that you will not be interfering in picking the team.
Like I said, I'll be a guiding hand.
Matt, listen to me now. Just listen to me, Will. You're not being fair. If Wilf is to succeed, it'll have to be on his own terms, with his own people around him. He loves you, but you'll be like a huge shadow that in the end will bloody well blind him. And the players will quickly realise he's just a front man, that you are still the real boss.
I'm treating Wilf like a stooge, Jimmy. Is that what you're saying?
Well, aren't you?
Away with you, Jimmy.
Matt, your presence will strangle him. Trust me, it'll happen. You owe Wilf a chance to do this on his own. You owe Wilf a chance to do this on his own. Let him stand or fall on his terms, because when it all goes wrong and you have to sack him, then he will hate you forever.
Your faith in Wilf is overwhelming, Jimmy. I thought you two were close. Isn't Wilf one of your golden apples?
Our golden apples, you mean? And yes, we are close. I love Wilf, but I know him. And this job, with you not giving him room to breathe, will destroy him. I beg you, Matt. Please, let me do it. Let me do it. You step away. You're still and will always be Manchester United in the eyes of all our supporters and the entire bloody world. Why not just go now with trumpets blazing and the crowd singing your name? Or at least stay away from the football side of things. Let last May at Wembley be your epitaph for Christ's sake. Please, listen to me. Let it go.
I may be Mr. Manchester United, Jimmy, but back before Munich, you're the one our boys always loved.
Oh, that's not true. For God's sake, they loved you too.
No, you're wrong. They respected me, but they loved you, Jimmy. Bobby, Duncan, Eddie, Tommy, all of them. They were more your boys, your golden apples, not mine. You were with them every day in the mud and the rain, out on the training pitch, screaming, cajoling, loving, teaching the Manchester United way. I would watch you, Jimmy, but I could never be you. Like you could never be me. Do what I did. You were hard, but did it with tough love. I was the one who ultimately made the decisions and broke hearts. That was my job. You, when the deed was done, would place an arm round their shoulders and take them for a drink in the pub or a cry in the chapel. Good old Jimmy. We both had our roles, old friend, and I don't remember you complaining back then.
Complaining about what? You sound bitter for no reason, Matt. Why? Eh? I mean, I don't understand. They were your boys equally as much as mine.
But you didn't kill them, Jimmy. I killed them. It was me.
For God's sake, you're talking nonsense again. You've bottled this up for years. It was never your fault, man. An act of sodding God killed our boys.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. It was our one loving God, whom we both worship, who decided to rip us from the sky and splatter our blood all over that Munich runway. It was our one loving God who decided to give you the job of ringing the boys' families, tell them their father and sons were dead, left lying in burning flames, a snowstorm from hell. It was a loving God.
For God's sake, Matt, that's enough. Now stop, right now.
Well, then be honest with me, Jimmy. Stop the bloody babysitting and speak your mind. Admit that I let our lads down. It was all about playing the Wolves the following Saturday and getting home and not being docked points by the Football Association and that damn bloody fool Alan Hardacre.
Bastard.
It wasn't Hardacre. It killed him, Jimmy. I was the one pushing to get home. I risked everything on a larcenous throw of the dice that felt horribly wrong, all for the sake of 2 damn points. We should have stayed over, come home the next day. I know that now. And if I'm honest, I think I knew that then. I put our boys at risk for the sake of 2 points. Admit it, Jimmy. Go on. You can say it. I won't blame you. The responsibility for the deaths lies with me.
Jimmy starts to light another roll-up as Matt stares at him.
I'm admitting nothing. Old friend. This isn't true. You've demons in your soul. And you are trying to convince yourself of a guilt that you don't deserve. It makes sense to me now what happened after Munich. And I can see now why you tried to pretend I didn't exist. You, Sir Matt Busby, was scared to death of me. You were scared to death of me blaming you for what happened. Even though you know deep down I would never have done so. And you know me well enough to know that, God forbid, I heard any bastard say such a thing. I would have knocked their bloody head off their shoulders. Do you know, I almost throttled that damn Bob Lord at Burnley over some rubbish he spouted after the crash. It took most of the boys to hold me back. And if I heard anyone talk wrong of you, a bastard sodding tank regiment wouldn't have prevented me sorting them out.
The two men stare for a moment, and then both start to smile.
I can quite believe that.
2 bloody tank regiments.
For how I've treated you, there can be no words. I'm so sorry, my friend. I only hope and pray that somewhere in that huge Welsh heart of yours, you find the strength to forgive me.
And Wilf?
It's not up for argument. Can we agree to disagree?
What you're doing is bloody wrong and bloody selfish.
I'm doing what I believe is right. This isn't Munich. It's not life or death. I'm doing this for the good of the club. And as for how I've treated you, I deserve a penance, a lifelong one.
Oh, give over, Matt. Can you hear yourself? I'm a football man, not a bloody priest. You promise me you'll stop blaming yourself for what happened.
I wish I could, Jimmy, lad. Well, that'll only end when I stop breathing.
You know something, Matt? This game of ours that's supposed to be so simple. Just 22 men kicking a ball around. Be it in wind, rain, snow, fog, and here in bloody Manchester. Probably all at the same time. This game of ours, as the wonderful Bill Shankly often says, is really about life. It's true. the passions involved, love and, like it or not, hate, the desire to win, the sheer pain of loss, the togetherness, friendships made and lost.
Aye, friendships made and lost.
All for one and one for all. And then, in the blink of an eye, your career is over. This game of ours. God, Matt, we were blessed to be allowed to come back into this game and do what we did. Watch what we witnessed. From the cradle, and sadly for many of our boys to the grave. Death was never meant to cast its ghastly shadow over our beautiful game and our beautiful boys. But it did. Though we were truly blessed for a while, Matt. Eh? This wonderful game of ours.
This bloody game of ours. Can't live without it, can't live with it. Does it care? Will it take you to the heights of ecstasy but also to the depths of hell? Some game, Jimmy. Some game.
Oh, God, it's a drug, no other word for it. When it gets in your blood and you're hooked. No getting out.
Exactly.
Then why the bloody hell did you retire, man?
Let's not go there again, Jimmy. We're never going to agree.
The mad old king, that's you.
I may be, but I wasn't always like this. There's so many more responsibilities now, Jimmy. It's not just what happens on the pitch anymore. United is changing. We have to look to the future of it. It's almost 1970. A different world. Business matters off the field are equally important now.
You're not changing for the better, in my opinion.
Nothing stays the same, old friend. We can't afford to sit still.
We have an aging team that has to be sorted first and foremost. Otherwise, we'll get left behind. That should be our priority, not building new bloody stands or whatever else goes on in that bloody boardroom of yours.
We still have Bobby, George, Dennis, Willie's come in. Young Kiddo's going to be a player. We're not weak.
We need new blood, Matt. I can feel it around the place and on the pitch. Things are not right.
Let me sort it out. Trust me, will you?
Well, no choice, have I? You're not bloody going anywhere.
Good lad. But we had a dream, didn't we? Remember the chat we had after watching Hungary beat England 6-3 at Wembley back in '53? Ferenc Puskas and his wonderful magicians playing a brand of football we'd never seen. They appeared from behind the Iron Curtain to put a spell on us all who lived for the game. We fell in love.
Aye. Christ, how can we forget? Eh? A Welshman and a Scotsman, watching them do that to England. It was bloody marvellous. You know, I remembered we shared a dram or two after that. What a team they were. Puskas, Hidaguta, Seabour, Coxis. God almighty, what a wonderful, wonderful team, and their passing and their movement. Those cherry red shirts caressing the ball with a wizardry and magic lightning fast like bloody ghosts they were. Red dervishes. God, I loved them, Matt. Socialism at its best on a football pitch.
Poor old Billy Wright.
When Puskas dragged the ball back from Billy's clutches and smashed it into that net, that moment, Matt, changed the game forever. Eh? That's when we knew.
That's when we truly knew, isn't it, Jimmy? That we had to grow our own apples. Schoolboys, get the best, teach them football is indeed a beautiful, but more importantly, a simple game.
Pass the ball to your mate, make room, always help him out.
The ball is around for a reason. It's meant to go around, make angles, and when you get that chance, you aim low and fire.
And you bloody well score.
Aye, that was the idea.
God, I had the tears at times, you know. But it was always for their own good. I was the devil to them. They cried. But the boys had to understand that not giving everything could never be tolerated at Manchester United. If I spotted one of them was a little off, I would be on him like a pack of bloody wolves. And they learned. They learned fast. And I loved them all, I did. Every last one of them. Oh, Christ, Matt, I miss his voice.
Oranges?
Excuse me?
You mentioned oranges earlier.
Yes, those bloody oranges. The following day after the crash, I went home to get changed before flying out to Munich. I passed those oranges to my Winnie when she put them under the stairs and we forgot all about them. Months after, in the house, there was a sticky aroma floating around the house. And so we finally remembered they were still there. And to this day, the smell of an orange, Matt, reminds me of those dark days, you know. I can't even bear to look at one now, never mind eat one.
I still don't know how you managed to do what you did after the crash, Jimmy. How you coped. It's a miracle.
No, it was no miracle, Matt. No angels flying around. There was nothing miraculous going on. It was just darkness. A sea of grief that overwhelmed the city, and somehow by sheer hard work, goodwill, and a determination to keep the devil from our door, we just hung on. But those days after the crash before Sheffield Wednesday were simply horrendous. Not just for me, but for all of us who had left.
Poor Harry Gregg, Bill Folks. Lads from the crash who played against Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, I can't imagine what on earth was going through their poor heads.
Aye, we, United, needed them. Simple as that. They wanted to help and we were on our knees. We were like each other's shadows afterwards. I'm still not sure whether I was keeping an eye on them or them me.
Now, I was told a story of you playing the piano in Blackpool at the Norbrick Hotel where we always stayed.
Yeah. Well, you know, a little dabble.
Harry and Bill's idea, I believe.
Yeah, it was. Aye, they came into the bar where I was drinking and told me that all the lads were waiting in the hotel lounge to watch and listen to moi, play on the bloody piano. Their reasoning being that none of the younger ones, you know, the new boys, had ever heard me play, see? They only knew one Jimmy, the one obsessed like a bloody madman around Old Trafford and the cliff, the one ranting and cajoling on the training pitch.
And Harry and Bill wanted to give them a glimpse of what had gone before.
I saw they did.
Let them know the band was playing on, especially the piano man.
The piano man. I'd been playing the organ and later the piano since I was 14 years old. But you know what, Matt? I don't think I had ever been as nervous as I was that moment. Harry called me over and he said, "Come on, Jimmy, show the boys you're not all just growling and sandpaper voice. Show them the magic in that Welsh soul of yours."
So you played?
Aye. I played. I lifted up the lid of the piano and I began to play Chopin Prelude 4. And I swiftly lost myself in that glorious music. I was far away, lost in the clouds with my boys. And then I came back. I glimpsed up from the piano, and I swear, Matt, amid the living, they were smiling at me, all of them. I put my head back down, looked up again, and they were gone. But I swear I saw them. At one moment, I saw them.
Grief does strange things to the mind, Jimmy.
Later that evening, I was heading upstairs to my bedroom and I caught the drift of a conversation taking place on the landing in front of me. A man and a woman. I heard it all. The woman saying, Did you see in the lounge earlier? It was so strange, she said. All those young men with tears in their eyes, listening to that old gentleman on the piano. Who was it? She asked him. The man looked at her and said, Dear, that was Manchester United. Or what's left of them. just stood there listening to them.
I know Arsenal came for you whilst in Blackpool.
Oh, yes, they came for me. I remember a spiv he was, bloody, sharp suit. I knew straight away. I recognised that sort. He first of all tried to pass himself off as a travelling, sodding salesman. What's all that about? But I didn't like what he was selling, see? He told me, he actually said these words, "Why don't you jump off that sinking ship before you drown with it?" Well, I told him exactly where he and his club could go.
Hard.
I sent him back south with his ears ringing and tie around his neck, bloody cockneys.
Juventus, I believe, also came calling.
How the bloody hell did you know that? You spying on me, Matt Busby?
£10,000 a year, and you didn't go. It's a king's ransom. They asked Johnny Charles to pass it on, I believe. John, lovely lad. You must have been tempted.
How could I? Would you have gone?
No.
Well, then there you go. For the very same reasons you could never leave United is why I turned them down. That's why.
Unfinished business.
But there was a debt to be honoured.
European Cup.
For Manchester United.
Our boys.
Our golden apples.
Roger, Jeff, Billy, Mark, Eddie, Tommy, David, Duncan.
Duncan. Big Dunk. I know we're not supposed to have our favourites, Matt. Oh, God, I dearly loved that boy. I remember managing Wales against England at Ninian Park. Before the game, I was given a last team talk, how you do. I remember I got a little carried away.
A little.
Well, I was going through the England team one by one, slaughtering them I was. When I finished, Johnny Charles shouted out, "What about Duncan, boss? You forgot about Duncan Edwards." Well, I just smiled, see, and replied to John, "You just stay away from him, son. He'll murder you."
Di Stefano. He's the greatest player I ever saw. But our Duncan, if he'd lived, had been better. In time, he would have left them all in his wake. Alfredo, Puskas, Eusebio, Pele. Duncan would have stood alone.
"What time do we kick off, Jimmy?" he said to me when I visited him in the hospital. "Get stuck in." The lad had so many wires coming out of him, it was heartbreaking to see. I broke my heart crying when I left that room.
They never told me he passed. Dr. Maurer believed I wasn't ready for such grim news. Finally, when I was stronger, the doctor broke down himself on telling me that Duncan had gone. We both cried. Everybody cried in that place when he stopped fighting. Nurses, they told me, were in floods of tears. No one could believe that he survived so long with the damage inflicted on his body. The boy was superhuman.
No. He wasn't superhuman. He was just Duncan.
The two go quiet, staring out over the stadium.
Remember when we first seen this place after the war?
Oh, Christ, do I. A bombed out wreck it was, wasn't it? I mean, look at it now. A grand sight, Matt. A perfect stage for our boys. I know there's certainly a magic about this place. The smell of grass, the grandstands. Even when it's empty, it makes my blood chill.
If I shut my eyes, Jimmy, I can still see them down there. Duncan powering over the halfway line with players bouncing off him. He passes it wide to little Eddie Coleman, whose snake hip-sleeve a defender on his backside. By now the stadium's on fire. Eddie makes it to the byline.
Crosses and Tommy Taylor rises like a salmon and thunders a header into the bottom corner past a diving keeper. Old Trafford goes bloody wild.
A smiling Duncan looks over to the bench and gives us both the thumbs up.
Piece of cake, Chief, he would say.
Another season, we would have beaten Madrid.
Aye.
I'm certain of it. Their president, Santiago Bernabeu, he knew we were coming for him. Santiago was a worried man. You know, he offered me a pirate's treasure to become their manager in 57. He said to me, "I'll make it heaven and earth for you, Matt."
What did you tell him?
I wrote Santiago a letter thanking him for his offer, but told him my heaven and earth was right here in Manchester.
He was a good man, heart of gold. Madrid helped us out when so many turned their backs.
Aye, and what was the first telegram we received in the dressing room last May after beating Benfica? It was of Santiago. "Congratulations from your friends in Madrid."
You can't buy class, Matt.
No, you can't. And you can't buy what you have, Jimmy.
What's that then?
You see the game with a poet's eye. Even in the mud and rain, with players kicking lumps out of each other, you find a beauty that few others can spot. You rant, you rave, you swell like a trooper, but it would be with so much passion and fire. You could set the world ablaze. Those players, those boys, they'd do anything for you. They'd die for you.
It's okay. It's okay. Anything we did was done together, Matt. You're right. I do see the beauty and the magic in this bloody game. I love nothing better than a rainbow from a crazy storm on a sunny day. But one thing I'm not is naive. I know what it takes to be successful in football. To be a manager. You need to be tough. You need to be able to deal with the crooks and the shysters, those who exist in this game of ours just to take and corrupt. You need to be a real bastard at times to survive. To play the game, not just on, but off the pitch. In boardrooms, with the rich and the powerful. To be able to stand your corner and not just survive, but bloody win. Win! Most men can easily be turned, but not you, Matt. You were never turned. Oh, you were hard, ruthless at times. But you always maintained a common decency. A prince among thieves and knaves. And I don't say that lightly, Matt. You know me well enough to understand I only ever tell the truth.
I'd expect nothing less of you, old friend, but I was never no prince, Jimmy. They think far too highly of me. I did my share of dancing with the devil. There was no choice if I wanted to get United back to the top, or things done and things not done, which I'm not proud of. After Munich, I could have tried harder to get the club to do more for the injured players. I should have pushed it and taken the players' side, but I didn't. Because right or wrong, Manchester United for me comes before all else. So, I'm no saint.
There's no such thing as a saint on earth, Matt. No, saints belong in heaven, not down here. You know I'm a God-fearing man like yourself. I go to church. I take communion. But I don't believe anybody is infallible. The Vatican can canonize 1 million priests and 1,000 nuns for all I care, but for me there's simply no such thing. To err is human, don't they say? And to forgive is divine. Your only crime, my friend, is being human.
You'd have made a damn good priest, Jimmy.
What with my language? Bugger that.
Aye, and many priests who sat around our bench at Old Trafford will testify to that. I watched them crossing themselves after listening to you.
I always repent in confession. You know that. Besides, that lot has given me enough Hail Marys and Our Fathers in payback. I'd have been there half the bloody night half the time.
I'm really glad we've been able to talk. I've been a fool. And there's no fool like an old fool, especially a selfish one.
Why selfish?
I should have shared our pain.
Do you know what? I don't think it would have been any less, old friend. I really don't. I remember, Matt, when you first came home and you walked into the Wembley dressing room before the cup final, and I was right behind you. And all the players, they just sat in silence. And I told them that the boss was going to say a few words.
I looked around, and I hardly recognised anybody, Jimmy. I remember Big Harry Gregg, Bill Folks, and Dennis Violet smiling towards me, but the others, they stared at me like I was a stranger. Their eyes unsure, going from you to me. I simply couldn't do it, and I left the room in tears. Too soon I was still on the wrong way. Because as I looked around at those in red shirts, all I could see was the boys we lost staring back.
After we walked up the tunnel, I noticed the band was warming up for Abide With Me. I thought the words to that song were so apt for me and you. I grabbed your arm, you remember?
I do.
Come on, Matt, I said. Let's listen to this. They're playing our song. And together we stood as the band started to play. I thought that you and me could carry on like before, you know. The good old days. But sadly it wasn't to be. Well, water under the canal bridge now, though. What's important, Matt, is that we've cleared the air. I thank you for that.
Matt and Jimmy gazed around the empty stadium.
It's getting cold.
Oh, aye. There's definitely snow in the air.
We still want you around the place, Jimmy. Nobody has an eye for a player like you. Your opinion will always count for something here.
Oh, that's very gracious of you, Matt. I'll try my best not to get in the way.
A hint of sarcasm there, I think, Jimmy.
No. I honestly won't, but if anyone needs me, I'll always be around. Until you say so, of course. Can't have the past dictating the future now, can we, Matt?
Nothing lasts forever, Jimmy lad.
Ah? Oh, we know that.
We lived through both paradise and hell, didn't we?
Do you know what, Matt Busby? You speak as if everything is sodding over. We have just won the European Cup, for God's sake. That has to be the start of something, not the end. It's not downhill from now on. It's down to us, just to instill in us that we have a future. A bloody glorious future. Otherwise, we have foundations made from sand. Please, God, don't throw it all away.
This is United, Jimmy. We're too big now. We'll always be at the top, my friend.
No, it doesn't work like that, Matt. We can't afford to rest on our laurels. For 10 years, we struggled on that path for bloody so-called redemption. And when Bobby raised the trophy against Benfica, it was the boys lost. It was for the boys lost. A fitting epitaph to our dead, yes, but not the end for the living. You have to ram that home to everyone here, Matt. Otherwise, we shall fall from the stars a lot quicker than it took for us to reach them. Do you understand?
I understand that you're worrying far too much, Jimmy. I get the passion. It's you, you'll never change, but the battle is over. It was won at Wembley last May. United will go on, but it won't be a journey laced with what's gone before. I'm pretty certain there'll be triumphs and losses as we continue, but no tragedies. It's time for you to stoke the fires, my friend. Put your feet up a little and enjoy a well-earned rest. You've deserved it.
A well-earned rest. Tell me, do you remember the young man you met back in 1943 screaming at those soldiers because they weren't giving their all? Do you remember that, Matt?
How can I forget?
Yeah, well, he's still bastard here. Inside of me. Oh, I may be older, but don't you kid yourself. The fires will burn inside me for this club and game of ours till they put me in a bloody coffin. I've lived and breathed United for 23 years. That's suddenly not going to change because you simply believe I should let the candle just, burn out? It doesn't work like that, and it shouldn't work for you either. Because if it does, then this club here is bloody doomed.
My fire still burns, Jimmy.
Good. Bloody good. I'm glad to hear it.
I best be getting back soon. I promised the press boys a private audience to keep them happy.
Just promise me one thing, Matt. Don't leave Wilf out to dry. If it all goes wrong, I know him. He's going to give this job everything, but deep inside, he's a worrier and will be desperate not to let you down.
I'll have his back, Jimmy.
Aye, well, you'll need to have his bloody front as well. Get him a couple of players in. Dust the cobwebs down in that office. New blood. United red.
Let me speak to the board.
Oh, come
and we'll
on.
see.
Matt, you are the bloody board. You tell them to jump, they say, aye. Get them in. I promise you won't regret it.
You think too highly of me, Jimmy. It can be a spider's web in that boardroom. It's a different world, and even I have to tread carefully. All about power. Scheming, politics involved. I can play, but I'm by no means infallible. One day someone will come along and have me out too, I promise you.
Oh, I very much doubt that. I really do.
Well, we'll see. You look at us. Me and you out here in the freezing cold, chatting about times gone past, just like a couple of old pals.
Matt and Jimmy.
Jimmy and Matt.
Jimmy reaches inside his jacket for a whiskey hip flask. He shows it to Matt.
For medicinal and special occasions. Would you care to share a wee dram with me?
Rude to say no, Jimmy lad.
Jimmy pours Matt's into a small cup and he keeps the hip flask.
Let's have a toast, Matt.
Matt raises his cup.
To our boys.
Jimmy raises his flask and clinks Matt's cup.
Fallen angels.
The two drink, then sit quietly staring around the stadium. It starts to snow, and the two old friends smile. It's been a long time.
Abide with me. Fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless soul, abide with me. Out life's little day, earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away, change and decay in all around I see. Oh, thou who changest not, abide with